Well, hey, you beautiful thing. Here we are again. It's another episode of Freedom from Alcohol. I was talking to Matt when I said beautiful thing, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
I was
shucks.
talking to you, the listener. But we should, by the way, so my name is Chris. There's Lauren. There's Matt. Welcome, guys.
Hey,
Me
everybody.
laughing in the background as soon as you start talking. Sorry about that.
No, it's
What are you
uh,
talking about?
What's
Hello,
going
Lauren.
on? Yeah.
we got to give a big shout out to our boy Matt here. He closed down a house just yesterday, right?
Yes,
Congratulations,
sir.
bro.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm excited. So we're my wife and I are heading down to the lower mainland of British Columbia in Canada. So Vancouver, like a suburb of Vancouver. We're not quite of the monetary strength to live right in Vancouver, but we're in a beautiful suburb named Maple Ridge. And we just closed on a house yesterday. So thanks, Chris. Yeah, super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy for you, bro. So that's some exciting news. And if you're new to this podcast, we thank you for being here. However the hell you stumbled upon it, we're grateful. Whether somebody recommended it or you searched for it, maybe you are at the point where all three of us used to be, tired of alcohol, tired of what it is giving us, tired of settling for a life that is less than what we know we could be living, and just the guilt, the shame, the anxiety, the regret, all of the stuff that comes with being in an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. So that's what we do here on this podcast. We share with you what worked for us, what works for our clients in our Freedom from Alcohol coaching program. And because I think there's a lot of confusion about, well, if I want to change my relationship with alcohol, what do I do? Like, what are my options? What would you guys say? Like, if somebody is first starting to think about this, what are the options to quit drinking?
Mm. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is AA for me, right?
Yep. Yeah. And what else? What else do
Work.
people think about?
Ugh.
Like the white knuckle willpower, just force yourself not to drink, but we get thinking about it the whole time, like that old
Yep.
school way of doing it. Yeah, those are the first
Just
two that come to
hope.
mind that I tried
Yeah.
numerous, right?
Yeah. So did I. Just hope that it'll work.
Hope, yeah.
And also there's rehab, right? Which,
Yep, fair.
okay,
Yeah.
well, so for rehab, I got to go away for a while, or maybe I, don't have to go away, but it's really expensive. And, that's the problem, I think, is what about another solution? Like, what if AA isn't for you? What if you don't want to do that? Because it wasn't for me. Rehab wasn't going to work for me. And I just know myself. I know that those things weren't what was going to help me. And I had tried the white knuckling. I had tried just hoping that it'll work, quitting with no plan. That didn't work because I tried that for about 5 years. How freaking frustrating is it when you think you've got it under control, you stop, and then you go back to it over and over and over again? So why we are here is we created this coaching program to offer people like you listening right now that are frustrated with this a solution that works to not only change your relationship with alcohol, but have you lose the desire for it so that you don't want it. You're not fighting yourself. You're not wishing you could have it. You're not forcing yourself to stay away from people who are drinking because you might be tempted. I don't know about you guys, but hell, I don't want to live that way, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things that we help people with in our program is hypnosis. And we're going to talk about it a little bit today, and not necessarily what hypnosis is or all that, but why it can be helpful in this, because hypnosis gets a pretty interesting bad rap. I mean, what do you guys think of? Lauren, what do you think of when you hear the word hypnotist?
Well, of course, we're thinking about, the one time that I went to a comedy show when I was 19 or 20 drinking my alcohol, and he brought seven people up on stage and had them all, running around, flapping their arms. I think it was chickens that everybody started acting like a chicken on stage. It was very convincing, but never am I going to get up on that stage or try hypnosis because I don't want to make a fool out of myself and become a chicken. So, or do things that chickens do, or not be in control of how I'm acting, which is pretty interesting for a drunkard, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
because
Good point.
you're not in control of what you're doing when you're drunk either. So oh, I'm not doing this hypnosis stuff because that's a little woo woo, and they might have me doing things that I'm not in control of. Meanwhile, I'm pouring alcohol down my throat. absolutely not in control of anything I'm doing. But yeah, I think that's the common perception, but obviously that's not what we're doing and how we're using hypnosis. And as a certified hypnotist, Chris, I would put it back in your court to talk about what it truly is.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because a few years ago, I had no idea what, like, okay, is hypnosis, does it really work? Like, what is it? Is it just the stage people making you spank your butt on stage or look foolish and all that kind of stuff? I mean, that does work, but here's the deal. Hypnosis is not, nobody's going to control your mind. Nobody's going to change you and make you do things that you don't want to do. With hypnosis, you're always in control. You are always your mind, your subconscious is never going to do something that you don't want to do. And I think that's a really important thing to make sure you're aware of, because people are skittish about it just because there's not a lot of information out there about it. I didn't know much about it until I started researching and then getting certified in it. Basically, what hypnosis does is it allows us to speak to the part of your mind that is where all your programming is. It is bypassing your conscious mind, getting into your subconscious mind, and that is the part of you where you believe alcohol is needed in your life. That's the part of you where you think, okay, when I'm stressed, my solution equals alcohol. When I am going out with friends or coworkers for happy hour, alcohol needs to be a part of that. All these programs that you have running back there, what we can do with hypnosis is take those programs out. And the simplest way that I like to explain it to people is like, think of it like you got buttons pressed in your brain, right? This button is pressed that says, God, alcohol is everywhere. It's in society. I can't imagine my life without it. It's been there on my bad days. It's been there on my good days. That button is pressed in your mind, and it is difficult to unpress it. But with hypnosis and reprogramming your subconscious mind, what we can do is unpress that button, depress it so that it's not running anymore. And so it's really beneficial when you approach whether it's quitting drinking or there's so many other things that hypnosis can help with. And that's at the core, the most simplest at what it is, explaining it is unpressing those buttons that you don't want pressed anymore. And this is why there are people that have had amazing things happen with hypnosis. I know stories of people that there's a woman who had not left her house in 20 years, called up a hypnotist. Hypnotist talked to her over the freaking phone and got her to leave her house and walk to his office that was like 9 blocks away. Hadn't left her house in 20 years. I mean, it's incredible what hypnosis can do. And it's not some woo woo, you need to believe this, you need to believe that mind control stuff that is out there. It is literally, if you just think about, you are a human being and you have a big old file cabinet within you. Since you've been born, you've been putting files in that file cabinet, right? And they're there. And while you're sleeping, those files are getting put into different areas and all that kind of stuff. And so with hypnosis, what happens is you get into this state where we're speaking to your subconscious mind. We're going in and we're taking those files, the ones that you don't want in there, we're taking them out. We can put new ones in there, positive ones, ones where you don't want to drink, ones where you are energized and you want to go look at life differently and stop shit talking yourself. This is why hypnosis has helped so many people with other things like quitting smoking, stress and anxiety, losing weight. All it is at the core of it is changing that internal programming. So, that does that make sense? I mean, from your guys' perspective, do you have maybe questions for me, or because we get a lot of questions about, well, what is hypnosis and how is it going to work?
I do have a question because I've found from the I've had a few sessions with a hypnotherapist before, and I found there was a lot of like overlap between like a really deep meditation and hypnosis. So that was sort of like what I associated with it to a degree, right? Like it's a really deep, the brain likes to compare or associate with something. So that's the way I looked at it. And I'm just kind of curious, like what kind of overlap is there? Like if somebody's like, oh, I meditate all the time, what are the similarities, and I guess what are the differences between like a meditation and a hypnotherapy session?
Yeah, and that is a great question. And there are a lot of similarities. If you listen to a meditation, you are going to get into that same sort of brain waves where you are speaking to the subconscious. And you can do this on your own too by listening to a meditation. The slight difference with hypnosis is you are speaking specifically about certain things that that person wants to change and achieve. And you can directly get a little bit more concise about what it is that we want to work on here today. And so there are a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of little language tweaks and inflation or not inflation, inflection in your tone and stuff like that when you're doing a hypnosis as opposed to just a standard meditation. So it's these slight things, but there are a lot of similarities. So, if you were to
Cool.
just listen to a meditation that really resonates with you, it'll have an effect. Like
Right. Yeah.
if you listen to it on a consistent basis. Now, if you listen to a meditation once, it's going to have a little bit of effect. But if you listen to it over and over every day, same thing with a hypnosis. The more you listen to it, the more it is getting those programs in there. Yeah, but that's a really good question.
I actually have one other one as well, because like there's a lot of YouTube videos. Well, I guess at this point it would be audio because the idea is that you listen to them as you sleep. So what is the idea of like, can you actually listen to something? If I leave my earbuds in about some kind of like manifestation or a behavioral change hypnosis track that's like 8 hours while I sleep, is that effective or is that sort of like like hogwash, so to speak? You know what I mean? Like
Like osmosis.
yeah. Like, is that actually doing anything, Chris? If I'm listening to something for 8 straight hours while I'm sleeping?
Well, and I don't have the exact answer on this, but here's what I've um, discovered about that or learned or asked the question too is it will still have an effect while you're sleeping. Like it's you're not going to get the same effect as if you are fully awake and your
Right.
subconscious is right there because it does go into a different level when you're actually sleeping. And so it's not think of it like a sponge, just not as absorbent of a sponge. So you're
Got
getting a little bit of that stuff and it's not going to hurt you. What will hurt you, by the way, is if you fall asleep to like watching TV.
it.
And this is a habit that I needed to get out of because I grew up falling asleep to a TV, and that is programming your subconscious. So if you think about it, whatever you're watching, maybe you fall asleep watching murder mystery shows or Dateline or even TV shows with commercials. And so all those commercials are programming your brain to go, oh, you're overweight, you're this and that, whatever products that are coming on. And so all that is getting into the file cabinet of your brain. So it
Mhm.
can have an adverse effect if you fall asleep to something like that. But I always fall asleep to either a hypnosis, a meditation, a yoga nidra, something where it's putting my brain into what I want to attract and positivity and thoughts like that. Because as you sleep, all that is getting into your brain.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Those are my questions about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good questions.
So I guess to bring it together, I wrote something down while you guys were talking. Why do we care about the subconscious, right? Like, well, the subconscious is in charge of like 95% of our day. It's running the show all day long. So if we want to be an ex-drinker or no longer be a problem drinker, then we need to work on those subconscious programs. And where we're going to see success with any kind of goal, in my opinion, y'all tell me what you think, would be success is going to equal changing those subconscious programs so that we're running around with new programs that match what we want out of life. So if we want to be a non-drinker, we have to break down all of those old, I think of it like a file cabinet, like, the files that hang on the two metal bars. That's how I explain it
Yep.
to my clients. Because we all do some work with the subconscious. And I think of like the files are going this way in my head, and we're just going to open one and slip something better in there. And since the subconscious is running the show, I want something in there that says I'm a badass, right? That I am a person who likes to exercise. I am a person who doesn't want to poison my body. So working on all of those programs, the point of hypnosis, the point of Psych K, the point of story work, which Matt does, is to give us more aligned beliefs that line up with our goals so that we can go and live the life that we want. And that's why we've incorporated into, our clients and all of that. Would you
Yeah.
say that's a correct assessment?
Absolutely. And this whole subconscious, unconscious, conscious mind thing, I had no clue about any of this before. There was so much that once I started digging into this and learning, it's like it makes so much sense because, as Lauren said, 95% of us is that subconscious. So all these programs that are in there that we don't even aren't even aware of a lot of the programs that are just automatically running. And so the biggest problem I see with traditional quit drinking methods are you're not addressing that 95%. You're only
Yeah.
doing the 5%. And it's a math problem. And this is what we talk about all the time in our community. If you have 95 horses going one direction and then 5 trying to go the opposite way, which direction is going to win? It's going to
Yeah.
be the 95 every time. So, if you can redirect those 95 horses to go the direction you want them to go, that is what's going to get you the results that you want, as opposed to banging your head trying to get those 5 horses to go in the other direction. I mean, when you can think about it that way, it really does make you go, oh, okay, I see. I got to change my internal programming, those automatic operating systems that are running in the background of my brain. And if we can do that, then it's not that I'm fighting to stay sober, but it is I am empowering myself to take those bad programs that I don't want anymore out and put new ones in there. And I'm going to go get my freaking life back and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I can be around people who are drinking alcohol and I don't want it. I don't. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I don't feel like I'm depriving myself because that program's not running back there. The program that's now running is shit, man. I'm so grateful that that's not me anymore. And I can empathize with that person who's getting drunk because I used to be that person. And I'm grateful that I'm not there anymore, not in a judging manner, not in a shaming, anything like that, but more so of like, man, I changed my programming. And it really is that simple. I think hypnosis, some of the things that sometimes coaches will say or whatever can tend to overcomplicate this thing. But if all you take away from this podcast is understanding that if you can change the 95% of you that is running your world, you'll have a lot easier time to change your life. And I, I believe with alcohol, if you just were to do the hypnosis, I don't think it's going to be as powerful. It may help you change, and there that button might get pressed just doing that. But there's been studies that for whatever reason, with alcohol, hypnosis alone isn't as powerful as it is with, say, something like stopping smoking, losing weight, or something like that. And so that is why we don't just do hypnosis, because that would be, in my opinion, a band-aid solution, a temporary fix. This is why what we do with people is we give you hypnosis, we give you coaching, you get one-on-one support, you get community support with other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through. How freaking huge is that when you're trying to stop drinking, right? You're getting tools, resources, guides, all the stuff that you need, because I honestly believe you got to throw the kitchen sink at this problem. And when you do it that way, and you give the added bonus of hypnosis, of doing what we also offer, as Lauren was mentioning a minute ago, she's certified in something called Psych K, which you can look up. It's, again, the balancing of some old standing beliefs that are hanging out in the subconscious, right?
Sure.
And
Swapping them
then
out
Matt
for something
does,
that's better.
yeah. And then Matt is certified in story work, which is changing your story through breathing, which all this stuff is gonna play a role into it. And you know, that's why I believe our clients are so successful, because they're
Yeah.
getting all of this.
Yep.
96%
Yeah.
success rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what would happen if you were just going the old route? So AA is 5% successful, has a 95% failure rate. And I'm not knocking on AA. I was actually speaking to somebody the other day whose father had been like uber successful with AA. And so she had quite the story to tell on that. But that's where that willpower comes in. So if we don't have our beliefs aligned and we've still got our subconscious brain saying, oh God, but a beer would be really good on a hot summer day after I cut the grass, we still have that belief that that beer is going to help us live a better day. That nice beer, after I cut the grass, or that nice glass of wine, like we were talking about last time with the romanticization. What's the belief behind the fact that I'm feeling very deprived, that I can't have that beer after I cut the grass? So that's where we're working with our clients with these subconscious techniques, is to say, I no longer associate that beer with number one being nice, but being something that I need to have because I cut the grass. We're kind of cutting those associations and putting together a better association. So for instance, what have you guys helped your clients do instead of having a beer when you cut the grass? What's the, we're getting rid of the romanticization, we're getting rid of that belief. So it's like we come up with a whole new routine to help people um, associate cutting the grass differently. So maybe instead of, having that beer that's so refreshing, maybe you go to the city pool, or you dive into your own pool if you have one, or you go take a cold shower, or you do something equally as rewarding. But aligning the subconscious to know that we're doing something even better than drinking that beer, because that belief is no longer there, that we deserve it, we need it, it's associated, we can kind of cut that. And that was a really long example, but that's what we're doing over here to help people live a better life and not feel deprived and not go through every summer and every grass cutting feeling like they're missing out.
Well, like Chris was saying too, like throwing the kitchen sink at this. Like I always use the analogy, when you're doing personal training with somebody, it's not like you're just going to go and you're just going to the gym to do bicep curls and that's all you do, right? There's this whole world of exercise, you know what I mean, and movement. And it really is like you have this whole menu in front of you of and then you can pick okay, this is working for me. This, I really like this. I wasn't expecting I was going to like this, but I'm liking this and this is working. And you sort of combine it. And that's the journey that we take our clients on, right? It's like, here's all this stuff and there is perhaps not an expectation, but a very, very strongly encouraged, get into all of it, try it all, do it for at least 30 days, right? And then from there you can go, you know what, this, I really liked all of this stuff. This is now my style. And it's very similar to what you do with a personal trainer. Like, okay, these three elements really work for me and I'm seeing gains now and I'm getting some momentum. And that's what this is, I think I want to speak for you guys. I want to see what your opinion is on it. But that's what worked for me is long before I got into coaching, even my own personal alcohol-free journey. I needed a collection of things, new habits. You know what I mean? It wasn't just one thing. There was like a collection of things. And that's really what I bring forward to in my coaching as well. And that it very much reflects in the program that we've co-created with the three of us.
Yeah, it is because otherwise, if you try to use a Band-Aid for this, it's not going to work. It might work temporarily, but you find yourself right back to where you were because those patterns are still there. The programs are still running. And something that is interesting because, Lauren mentioned AA and the 5% success rate. But the other part about AA is like, you kind of have to buy in for life then. And for the rest of your life, you have to be thinking about alcohol and talking about it and going to meetings and continue this, putting emphasis on this. Like, why would you want to do that? And some people, great, that's what works and that's cool. But the thought of that for me was like, oh man, I don't want to do that. So what this allows you to do, the way that we do it is you get to the root of the problem and you take care of it in a lot shorter period of time, and then you go live your life. And that's where the freedom from alcohol, that's why we call it that, because it is freedom then. It's not that, okay, well, I gotta still think about this in the back of my head and still make sure that I'm keeping up with this. And I don't want anything to have that kind of control over me for the rest of my life. So that's another benefit of approaching it this way, because that's what hypnosis, again, if you just think about it, taking those programs out of there, you don't have to sit there and fight the internal battle anymore. So, I just think of people like Ben yesterday, one of our clients, and Lauren, you worked with Ben. Um, this guy is amazing because he came to us about 10 months ago. He was in a really bad spot. He had tried every other method to stop drinking. He had lost his pilot's license because of alcohol. He had just his life was not in a great spot. And man, I just emailed him yesterday. I said, "Hey man, how you doing? Checking in." And he sent back an email like he's in San Diego with his new girlfriend, living life, big smile on his face. He sent me a picture a couple of months back with he got his pilot's license back, so he's flying again. His whole life is back and he's taking charge of it. And you can just see the energy that's back into him. And that's the kind of stuff that happens when you approach it this way. So it's just one of the coolest things about our job is watching people go from darkness to light, hopeless to hopeful and excited. And it is incredible, seeing people do that. So I if you are listening to this podcast and you're going, yeah, that's I don't want to do the traditional route. That doesn't work for me, or it hasn't worked for me. I don't want to white knuckle it. I don't want to be on my own with this. There is a wonderful way to go through this process that we help people with: the hypnosis, as we've talked about in this, the reprogramming of the subconscious mind, and everything else that comes with it. It really does work. And so if it is something that you're interested in, get in touch with us. You can go to coachbykris.com. We put the link below the thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's in the show
Okay.
notes. Yeah.
All right. So what is the best way? Is it just tell them to go below? I don't know. You do the technical stuff. I'm not good at that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, give us some love on Apple Podcasts if you can. 5-star review with some text is wonderful. Helps us get the word out on that. To Chris's question / point, yes, absolutely. Anything that you need in the show notes will be available. Hyperlinks to book the call with Chris, and as well to find our podcast in various other locations. So Spotify and Apple Podcast are the two heavy hitters. So just a follow on Spotify, and then the 5-star review with the text on Apple Podcasts, huge help, and just send it to anybody that you'll feel will get benefit out of listening.
Right on. There we go, guys. All right. So hopefully we've answered some questions about hypnosis, about the subconscious reprogramming. If you do have further questions, we'd love to answer them for you. So the best way for that is to get into our Freedom from Alcohol Facebook group. It's an amazing community. Again, if you're talking about being around other people who are going through the same thing, that understand what you're going through, and you can ask us any questions in there as well. You can follow me on social media at Coach by Chris. Ask me any questions anytime. And, a lot of times people ask us questions and we turn it into a podcast like this. So we're always wanting to know what it is that you want us to talk about. So holler at us, let us know, and we'll get into it. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. It's Freedom from Alcohol. We'll see you.
Thanks, everybody.